Welcome to People Unplugged, the podcast from the creative team at People Unboxed. I'm Westy, Digital Director at People Unboxed. This is the People Unplugged podcast. Morning, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to the show. This month, I welcome no stranger to People Unplugged. It's great to see you back. Caleb Foster. Caleb, how you doing?
Hello, how are you?
All right, thank you. I think this might be it might be your third or even fourth appearance, but with a bit of a different hat on today. Caleb and I were chatting last week about anything and everything AI, as most people are, and we probably spent about 20 minutes where Caleb blew my mind and made me realise how horribly wrong I was going with everything I was doing. And by the way, I thought I was doing quite a good job up until that point, and I thought, this is all over the place. So, I thought it'd be worth recording this chat or a similar chat because I'm sure there's people that are very much in a similar boat. So, Caleb, first introduce us to Claude and Gemini, and what should everyone be using, or does it not really matter for the conversation we're going to have?
I don't think it really matters. I think people will naturally gravitate towards something, and actually, I think it doesn't have to be one either. I think that's the beauty of the space at the minute is like, I suppose that's the downside, but that's also the opportunity is there's so many tools about. There's a number of like frontier AI tools, Anthropic, Claude, Google Gemini, OpenAI, ChatGPT, to name a few. And then
Microsoft Copilot, of course, I'm assuming you chuck into that.
Of course, Microsoft
or is that
Copilot
powered by someone else? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because actually a lot of services are powered by, some of the frontier models. But I suppose it doesn't really matter. I think find what you feel comfortable in, because the space is changing daily. We used to sort of think about, how do we plan for the year ahead? Well, the AI space is moving daily, and it's just getting rapider and rapider, faster and faster. But I use a combination actually, and there's other models such as OpenClaw and Hermes as well, that I find sort of complement everything as well. So there's nothing wrong with having a few, trying a few. And if you're anything like me, if you're curious, you sort of try something, it doesn't quite work, you put it down, you pick something else up and you have a go. I think as long as you've got a mechanism, or you be really mindful up front to go, we want to store this, we want to back this up, we want to make sure that it's transient across any AI model, then you don't sort of lose anything.
Before we get too far, because the bit that really piqued my interest and the bit that you and I were chatting about last week, I think even now, when you're just explaining what you're explaining and saying, you can use Gemini, you can use Claude, you can ChatGPT or whatever, I think it's fair to say most people at this point will be thinking, they mean I can ask it questions and it gives me an answer. We're going so far beyond that, and hopefully we'll get to that in this chat, because that is so just scratching the surface of what it can do. It's almost like dare I say, like a Google search on steroids at that point, right? It's just answering questions. It's like a party trick to go, what's capital France? It's that sort of stuff. But the stuff you and I were talking about is how we can actually use this stuff to do creative things, run our business to a certain extent, and dare I say, almost automate many, many things. I've got that right? So it's more than just this chat client that people seem to think.
Yeah, and wow. I mean, where do you start?
I know it's huge.
Actually?
I know it's huge.
So I think there's a number of different layers on how you use AI, and you use AI in inverted brackets because it's such a broad term at the minute. But you're right. I think now chat, so just asking a question and getting a response, is probably step one, and that's really helpful. So I think just one-off disposable stuff, whether that's a video, an image, a response to something, that is level one, and if you're using that, like that's not a derogatory term, level one. If you're using that, you're already finding that you've got a bit of a super suit on, that it's doing stuff that you've never done. And I think for me, that is often the mind-blowing thing to go, oh my God, I didn't know it could do that.
Yeah.
I like, now I've got this, now I understand this. But that is level one. Like, ask it a question, get a response, boom, I'm done. And maybe that's all you need, and that is, enough for you. And then I suppose the next sort of level, as I see it, and again, this is just my opinion,
Yeah, yeah,
so
sure.
this is not nothing concrete, is, this notion of getting a piece of AI to do tasks for you. So, in Claude, it's called co-work, and you ask it to do stuff. You might have a specific output, and you want it to work through that sort of semi-autonomously. To go, this is the outcome that I need. Can you help me fabricate it?
So as if we give people an example of that, so where I'm using that, for example, following the conversation we had last week, where I'm using that is we do weekly pulse surveys, but there's 4 different surveys that go out
Yeah,
across the month, so basically
yeah,
four in a month. At a manager's meeting, I need to present that back and show where things have happened, where trends have gone, that sort of stuff. That used to be lots of Excel sheets,
yeah,
lots of PowerPoint, and all
yeah,
the rest of it. And now I'm going to say through trial and error, because I want to cover that bit in a minute.
yeah, yeah,
Through some trial and error, I now got Claude that produces the report for me by looking at all of that data.
yeah,
And I'm at the point where all I can do now is say, oh, and by the way, June's data's here. And it
yeah,
basically updates everything and outputs everything for me. Now, that makes it sound like, and Caleb, this is the really important bit for me that you and I spoke about that I think people need to understand. That doesn't happen by chance, as in we don't go produce a report on this and it's perfect first time. It's far from it.
yeah,
Um, and I think for a lot of people, there's loads of to and froing to get it to the point where they go, yeah, that's how I want it to look.
yeah.
But
And
if
you
they
get
start again next week, it don't look like that.
no,
And
no.
that's where I think people are going wrong. It's like, it's nothing. I think you gave me the example of, can you create me a piece of e-learning? I said, yeah, of course I can. Here it is. And then next week you go, can you create me a piece of e-learning on a different topic? And they're like, yeah, it looks nothing like the first one, though. There's no brand. There's nothing. And
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem where people are stumbling.
So there's got to be a base foundation, and you wouldn't just, like, imagine you've just had this amazing idea and you've opened up a business, you've opened up a shop, and then you've said to your first employee, I want this. And they go, okay, I can do it, but, I'll do it how I want to do it. And, it might not be laid out with what's in your head. So you've got to build all that foundation, first of all, haven't you? The brand language, the brand identity, what you stand for, the values, and all of that. So that's all compounding knowledge and information that you want to feed into your AI. And so you cannot just build a business from going, I've got an idea, and then tomorrow I'm going to tell it, and all of a sudden it's going to know what it's doing. So you have got to build all that first of all, but you'd have to do that anyway. And then
Yeah.
just going back to your other point where you're doing these pulse surveys. So the reason why that sounds like you've moved on a step from just chat is because there's multiple things and multiple touch points
Right.
that you're asking it to do. So that, for me, that then says it's some sort of semi-autonomous thing that says, oh, point me in the direction of your spreadsheet, point me in the direction of your brand assets, point me in the direction of, a PowerPoint template.
Yeah.
How do you want this presenting? Is it HTML? Is it, Excel, or whatever it might be? And so there's multiple things going on there that if you were to just have a chat, you would have to keep going backwards and forwards to get that. Whereas with a co-work sort of scenario, you've still got that back and forward because you've got to build that baseline up. But you basically give it a task which could consume a few things. Go and grab this from another website that I've seen. I like this sort of thing, and it sort of goes off and finds it. And and So that's nothing new, but that's probably where people want more help, don't they? How do I become more effective at what I'm doing at the minute?
Yep.
How do I not spend a lot more money on someone else's services? Because I guarantee there's a website that can do that for you, that a paid website. There's a paid service that
Yeah.
someone else has created that. Well, the power is in sovereignty, isn't it? Why don't you build it? And it might take you a little bit longer than just going on some website that you've found that they've
Yep.
been doing it. But that's their business model, right? Why don't you keep that sovereignty and build it yourself and keep repeating it?
And a lot of what we're without sort of jumping ahead, and I think there's a couple of sort of bits that I really want to cover on this chat. One is skills,
Hmm.
and what that actually means. Um, and by skills, I mean, yeah. So let's just leave it out. Let's leave it as broad as skills, because you can
Okay.
talk through skills in a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
The other one that really stuck with me, and it was a brilliant quote that you gave me last week, which was, you need to stop thinking you're hiring an intern that you need to teach everything, but imagine you've hired the world's best
The
person at
world's
this.
best, yeah,
And
yeah,
when it makes mistakes, you need to tell it. So that's
yeah,
the second bit. And
yeah.
the third bit, which may link into skills, Caleb, I don't know. So we've got skills, we've got the intern bit. The third bit is, I love the fact that you run everything through, dare I say, a quality filter. And the quality filter is, would Gordon Ramsay service, or would he throw it back in my face? So I'd love to dig into that, because those things for me really resonate.
So I think once, so you've got to have a definite vision. I think that's the first thing. And just like anything, your vision is going to change and adapt. But, I think you've got to have some, like, what do we stand for? How do we talk? What do we look like? And, overall, what's our identity? So what makes me, what makes our business us? And you've got to educate, first of all. And so I started along a path to go, oh, it's my new apprentice, my new intern. And
Yeah.
of course I've got to keep teaching it. But do you know what? I've done that for a couple of months, and it's like, it gets frustrating. And you think, hold on a second. No, this is AI. I'm using frontier AI models that are meant to be super smart. So then I flip my model to go, like, they're the expert. They are the world's best coder, the world's best designer. And I'm not saying you replace all of those roles with AI. Treat them as if they are the world's best and ask the questions, because I know from my experience, I am not a coder, right? But I'm some of the results that I'm getting by questioning naively and asking naive questions. And I keep then repeating, you're the world's best coder. You tell me what the best solution is. How should I hook that up? And I'm using services and systems that have been completely alien to me. And I'm now challenging to go, is this right? Is this the best way to do it? Yeah, it's telling me all of this and stepping me through that. So, but I think that is the flip that I've made, actually, is to go, you're not an intern, because I haven't got all the answers. You know more than me. You've got access to more than me. So you tell me, and I will sort of say whether it's working right, or it's looking good, or it's saving me a whole load of time and effort. So that's my mind shift
Yep.
change.
Yep.
In order to get to that, so I've been, and this hasn't just happened in steps. This is like a blend of things all happening together, and me going, "Oh, of course I need all this. Why haven't I done this?" Right. So, Mind Boost, for example, we already had our mission, vision, the approach,
Yeah.
how, our principles. And so, like, feed that in. Say,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
us. This is what we stand for.
So what you mean, like your values document, and even if you had your brand guidelines and that, is that sort of stuff, right? Okay. Yeah.
All of it, because that's all the stuff that it ingests to go, I know what you're about. And then on top of that, you go, so you see so many posts going, oh, Claude just did this, right? Claude doesn't just do stuff. It needs a bit of help. Or, this has outperformed Claude on design. Design is, lacking behind if you go to Gemini and stuff like that. Well, then I thought, Well, it needs a standard, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
I came up with these design philosophies to live by, really. And again, they're nothing new for Mind Boost. It's just cementing that and feeding that in. So, we design stuff for how we want people to feel, not
right.
just, we just don't want to tell people stuff and then go, oh, they magically know everything. So we want to generate a feeling. Then every project starts with a fresh view. So it's not a template, it's not a cookie cutter. So take it from that angle. Like, and some of the technicalities. So you design for mobile first, and it's helped me scope this as well. So 320 pixels up to
Right.
2560, and everything's got to work in between seamlessly. So, some of these authoring tools that you have to put multiple images in, like you go, hold on a second, that's creating me a whole load of work,
Yeah.
quadruple the work. There's got to be a quicker way. Oh yeah, just do this, this, and this, and then we can automatically resize it because I'm the world's best coder. I know how to do that.
I can do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Wow. Accessibility. We're not compromising on that. And that, the goal is to make learning desirable. But the other thing that I really found is, like, how do you apply a litmus test to what good is? So, it's over the journey, as everyone will get, you get really frustrated by the results and go, that's not right. That's not the vision I had in my head. Well,
And to be fair, some people give up at that point, right? They go, no, it's useless.
and it's easy to
but
do
it's
that.
like, and you know what? Without tying it back to moving away from AI and tying it back to work, it's like saying, well, I've trained them and they've still got it wrong, so they're just rubbish. I need to hire someone else. Yeah, I'm walking away from it. You just don't do that. So why are you doing that with this, right?
Yeah, and I don't really want to say, would you do that to a real human? Because some people say, yeah, well, would I just get a new bloody apprentice in? But
Right.
no, that's not reality, right?
No.
Because if you kept saying to an apprentice, this is not the vision I've got in my head, anybody worth their weight in, salt
Yeah.
would go, well, tell me then, share with me. So
Yeah.
that's
What am I doing?
yeah, what
How
am I
can I
doing wrong?
improve?
So I simply said, and this is born out of frustration as well, because I was getting, rubbish
Yeah.
results and going, that is not right. And I basically said, like, hold on, would Apple ship this product? Would, like, even if it's not product yet, it's like an idea, would Apple be happy with that? And if the answer is no, nor would I. Would Porsche be happy with one of their cars
say
on the
that's one of their
forecourt to say
designs,
that's one
right.
of my ideas? Because this is a real life story, right? I was mocking up some images, and there was about a sort of a 2-pixel band of wrong color, and Claude said to me, listen, we've been around 5 iterations of this and I've not been able to diagnose it. Shall we just leave it as a known issue? And I said, absolutely not.
No.
We are not doing this until we've resolved it, because first of all, you created this, you know where the code is. Secondly, we know exactly where it's appearing. We can replicate the problem. So you should be able to diagnose it. Don't be telling me you cannot fix it. And that's when I then said, if that was Apple, would they go, hold on a second, that button doesn't work, but don't worry about it. We'll ship it anyway.
Yeah.
The iPhone 502 is fine with that broken button. Would Porsche be happy with those design contours and one side of it has just got a crinkle in it and they go, oh, that's all right, just sell it, we need the money. And, the other thing I said was, like, Rolex, would they be happy? So their timepieces have been around for, years and years and years. And they're on the arms of people that are, fashionable and would they be happy with showcasing that? And they've got a little thing missing out of the number one's missing. Oh, it's all right, it's only 10 pixels. And like, you see all this stuff about Gordon Ramsay, I'm not accepting on the pass. And so, like, would he would go, no, bin it, it's not right. Like, so hold those people, like, they're your measures of success, and if it doesn't pass that bar, we ain't doing it either.
And when you say that, just to put that into context then, so you have so in Claude speak, you have a skill, right? So this is almost like a set of instructions that it's working through before it gives you any output. So do you have that that almost your quality check, if you want to call it that. Do you have that as a skill so that anything you create, it's always run through that filter?
Yeah, and skills can be as broad or as narrow as you want them to be. It's just a repeatable thing. So, again, a good example is you want to create. I don't know. We've done a 3D exploding graphic on a website, and you go, actually, we've learnt based on certain things only work at certain screen sizes and how to output that. Like, we know that we're going to do that again. It might be a watch next time. It might be a trainer, whatever it might be, like the Apple Explode thing. So create that as a skill. So you can just go next time, oh, can you create me a video using this 3D thing, using your skill, but this time I want it to be a trainer that explodes and we break it down.
So that gets away from that.
Wasting 10 hours of your life that you did before.
Right, yeah. So because at the moment, certainly if people are using chat, even when you say, remember our previous chat, they'll go, yeah, I'll have a look. So it kind of doesn't, but you almost starting from scratch every time. And certainly when you're doing stuff like imagery, say icon design.
Yeah.
It might design you a nice icon. You go, yeah, I love that. Can you do one for, I don't know, a magnifying glass? And it looks complete. Well, of course, it looks completely different. It's not linking those two things together. So once you've done the icon design and you like what it's doing, you need to create something, or you need to tell it to remember how it did that, so that it's replicatable. Is that even a word? Replicatable further down the line, and you can just go, right, remember how we did the magnifying glass? I want everything else to match that.
You just remind, there's a game show in there where you get so high and you go, well, do you want to carry on or do you want to bank it? What's that?
Oh, the weakest link. Yeah, it's bank. And they always get to about three things. Bank. Oh, no.
And someone's screaming at you, bank. And then the person that doesn't bank it, they go, oh, God, they've just lost all the money. I think like that, right? You get to a point, you go, right, bank it. Remember this. This is looking perfect. I love the style of it. I love the animation of it. Whatever it is, bank it. Create it as a skill. But that doesn't mean it's one and done and then that's it. You just go, that skill that can you now enhance it? But actually, like even since our conversation, it's moving beyond that, because what you don't want to do is to say every time, oh God, remember to bank it. You want that compounding information that automatically banks it. And so without even telling your AI, bank it, repeat it, it's doing that automatically.
How does it do that?
Well,
you didn't tell me that last week.
So no, that's because I wasn't using it last week. But like I've been using lots of connectors. One of them is called Obsidian. So, and the way that I likened it was I always used to use Notion. Right. So Notion's a great note-taking app. What the AI doesn't do particularly well, or what Notion doesn't enable the AI to do, is they are flat pages. So imagine you've got 1,000 pages all laid on the table, but none of them are really linked.
Yep.
So Obsidian sort of does that. So it takes, and I've got it to copy everything from Notion into Obsidian. And then what it'll do is link all of those pages to go, I can see how they're linked.
Oh, so something over here. Well, we sort of mentioned that over here as well. So is it sort of like
So it puts
like a web of where the pages
exactly like that, like a web. And so that's the first stage to go, hold on a second, you're talking about this, but I can see there's a link here. Yeah. Now, do you want me to make that simpler? And then building on that, it's like so I see lots of things like the videos or websites or posts and go, I think I could do that. Where can I bank that? So I've now started automatically banking that in Obsidian for it to then go, oh, that's a good idea. We can either repeat that, or it collides with what we're already doing, or it fits in nicely. And then once it's got all that knowledge, get it to start thinking like each week to go, right, what did you achieve this week? What do we think we want to do next week? What are the links? What are the gaps? How can we make you smarter?
And when so all of that information's almost like a big database of thoughts, if you want, in Obsidian.
Yeah.
And you said about connectors. So do you use Claude to talk to that, or do you just do all of that in Obsidian itself?
Well, I don't really do anything in Obsidian. That's just the vault that holds it. I do everything through Claude. And if I if I want it to connect, so that's what I've just spent a day doing, to go, I want you to find all the connections in here. I want you to migrate from Notion. I want you to find all the connections, and I want you to build a sustainable way of telling me what's
Oh.
coming up. And so, and there's different services as well that it's trialing as well, that it's suggesting. There's something called Paperclip that it's doing. And by my own admission, I don't fully understand it. What I do care about is it's making me more effective and giving me ideas and opportunities to sort of change and grow.
Well, would you be happy sharing some of those? So, for example, how do you? Because I know you use Claude almost for some of your social media posts, as in to give you ideas of content, or maybe it's a marketing plan. Or so, how was you going all in with Claude, for example? How's that changed the way Mind Boost works?
Well, it actually started with OpenClaw. So I was listening to a podcast talking about OpenClaw and thought, oh, I want to try this, because OpenClaw is an autonomous agent. Now, there's been mixed sort of feelings about, oh, it doesn't do security by default, and it doesn't always learn. But like, that was the eye opener for me. That was the epiphany moment to go, oh my God, I can do stuff I've never been able to do. So
sorry. So rather than the chat that people, when you say AI, people are thinking this chat, OpenClaw can, as a really simple example, at 2 a.m. every morning can tidy up your desktop and put everything in neat folders, right?
it could do, but I tend to, like, this is going to sound really arsey, but I tend to think a little bit bigger than that, which
No.
is,
Sorry, that was my simple. No.
which is like, I've
Talk at my level, Caleb.
I've got
Come
a
on.
vision for a whole platform, or I've got this vision, and I'm an ideas person that thinks about all of that. The reality is, last year, to get that off the ground, you'd probably have to spend in a coder, designer, and you'd have spent
Yeah.
tens of thousands on that. And then overnight of installing OpenClaw, it was like, I've got this idea about how I can start a social media campaign with posts, and then it sort of snowballed into, I want to post a few times a week under these sort of banners, but my challenge is, I don't always think about the type of content. So can you start finding out what's a hot topic in L&D? Can you know,
Right.
the trending angles, what's going to give the best hook, and a lot, and there's websites that do that now, but that, I was sort of blinkered at that point to go, this is what I want to achieve, and this is how I want to make my life easier. And so now it's every week it's going, right, here's your 3 LinkedIn posts, because they're hot topics. Like, and I haven't got to a point where I'm just going, right, it's fully automated. This
Oh, no.
is over
You
to
want the
you.
final sign off, right?
I'm holding on to that, not only in terms of the content, but the design. So what I post on LinkedIn is me, but the machine behind it, I've automated, and
Yeah.
blog posts as well. And so I wanted to see something that's scaled and that I could give minimal investment to. And OpenClaw allowed me to do that. What I am finding genuinely is, depend upon the service that powers the AI behind it, it could be really expensive. And I'm finding Claude more cost effective. So I
Okay.
will probably migrate everything from OpenClaw to Claude, and use OpenClaw just as a sort of an executive assistant rather than coding.
Yeah.
Because it's more cost effective. But the other thing we spoke about as well is, when you use alternative AI tools and AI models, they're not precious. I said, they're not like your hairdresser where they get really arsy that you're using something else. Like, be really open with them and go, I'm using Claw for this, and I
Yeah.
want you to take it over. What do I need to happen? They go, go back to Claw, tell it to create a full handoff document, and then I'll ingest it and find it out, and vice versa. Like, they don't go, I'm not going to do
Why,
that.
talking to Gemini?
Why would I?
I'm going to give you right rubbish. Yeah. Well, speaking of her.
Yeah, and because it's sort of logical and that sort of makes sense, really. I suppose that's the missing gap as well. And actually, that brings me on to a nice point: is that this sounds amazing, right? But I couldn't move a business forward without humans as well. So again, I've tried like for 3-6 months to go, is there a model where you're completely driven by AI? My take from that is, if you are a coding business, probably, but you might need someone to oversee it. If you're like us, if you want to create learning with feeling in, you need humans involved. So from a design angle and from a language angle, you need humans all the way. And from a client connection point of view, you need humans. And that's the model that we're adopting, is a hybrid. So we're human, but we're enhanced with AI. And that, like, I've gone through a sort of a flip flop of going, can we be all AI with sort of human led? And I don't think we can, because humans add something different, something quirky, something, non-logical and irrational sometimes, which is what we want.
Fantastic. You know what? I can't think of a better place to leave it, because people will be going, oh my God, he's letting AI take over. That's absolutely not what you're saying. You're using AI to help
Scale,
and to automate the stuff
grow.
that you don't want to do, so that the humans could actually spend time doing the stuff they're really good at, right?
I did on that point then, is so if you see all the doom scrolling and negativity about AI taking roles, I think the one way that we can then ensure that doesn't happen is tap into what a human really brings, and that is diversity of thought, diversity of behavior, empathy, all of those really strong human skills. Like, we've got to find them now, because that is our superpower.
Fantastic. Caleb, if people want to get hold of you, I know we mentioned Mind Boost, but you've now got calebfoster.ai as well. So could people reach out to you on LinkedIn? How's it going to work?
Yeah, either or. I mean, Caleb Foster AI is another stream. We're working with AI quite a lot, especially in the L&D space. So it made sense that we could say, right, let's hang a hat on that as well. But we're all under the banner Mind Boost. So yeah, on LinkedIn.
Fantastic, and I'll link to that in the show notes. Mate, thanks again for your time. Really, I need to go away and play with stuff again now. Every time I speak to you, I was going to say every time I speak to you, cost me money, but actually you don't. Every time I speak to you, you actually save me money, because I go away thinking, I can do that. You keep making me look good. I'm more than happy with that.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
See you later, mate. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us today. Feeling curious to learn more about how we help people remember stuff? Well, why not sign up for a free trial of our AI-powered bite-sized learning app, BentoBot? You can do that easily at bentobot.com. And you can catch up on interviews with all of our previous guests by subscribing to this pod via Apple Podcasts or any podcast platform. Till next time, take care.